Welcome back to another live session of the Three Amigos, your TA report for Sunday, March the 20th. Bags here with Nick and GP. Welcome back, guys. What a ripper. What a week we had, right?
Yeah, buddy. I mean, GP, take it, man.
Oh man, yeah, that was. I can't say it wasn't expected.
But did we expect it like that, GP? Like, let's keep it.
Dude, I expected. I have calls for Monday's low to prove it if needed. So I expected it.
YouTube links in the chat, by the way, if you want that. Anyway.
Yeah, so I expected it fully, and I'm happy the thesis worked out. It doesn't always happen that way. I was seeing a lot of stuff that was kind of confirming during the week in terms of flows. They were closing out lots of calls that were decaying. So the setup was getting increasingly more like the confirmation was increasing for me, right? Like so. Even told so I run a service that I don't really talk about too often, but I run a service where I told them in Thursday afternoon that I'm going to be holding a lot more risk going into a Friday than I normally ever do, based on what I was seeing. And I told them if they want to take profits, no one's gonna complain about taking profits because we were already long earlier in the week. But yeah, holding into that Friday was something that I had on my risk radar for this week, and I was willing to figure out that. I was gonna approach that. So yeah, I had a pretty good idea that we were gonna go, and like I said, it doesn't always happen, but it's what I saw coming. So I'm happy that played out.
I don't do this enough for you. I'm going to do it better. If you want to check out GP's service, 360tradingview.com. I mean, hell, maybe GP will show you some love if you say you heard it right here.
Yeah,
I have no insight to that. I'm just saying, maybe if you should tell him you heard it here.
I appreciate that, Bags. I don't talk about it too often or promote it very often, but if you're looking to come check us out, then you're more than welcome to. No pressure.
Anyway, Nick, you have been growing less bearish over the last couple of weeks, I will admit. Did this past week catch you off guard? Were you expecting that? Were you expecting that big candle like that?
I wasn't, but I definitely took advantage of it. I mean, I'm definitely not aggressive, but I definitely grabbed a lot last week. Between Roblox, NoNet, PSTG, NVDA, ABNB, Tesla, Google, Amazon. I mean, you couldn't I don't think you couldn't not get involved in some capacity.
Did you dump the rest of your miners, Nick, or are you still in some?
Yeah, I got a little bit of AG in my wife's account, and then I have the SLV and the GLD, but
got it.
I mean,
you pretty much cashed out on that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Helps you fund the next level. What I will say, Nick, though, if your stock did not break its downtrend last week, you probably need to evaluate the stock you're trading.
For sure.
So or at least got really close to the line of breaking that downtrend. So if you're looking at charts and you see that your stock is nowhere close to breaking that downtrend, you may need to evaluate whether it's going to or not.
You can name some names who maybe didn't break downtrends.
Peloton got close. It didn't break the downtrend, so Peloton's one I'll be watching. I think it actually goes higher.
Yeah,
based on a few things I'm saying.
We were talking about this on Thursday.
Okay.
Ford did not.
But there's some other things, right? Ford did not. But even like if you're looking at Apple didn't break its downtrend, so that's the one you should be watching, right? It had a big week, but it didn't break its downtrend.
Yeah.
So it could be one of two things when it comes to Apple. Apple has held the market together this entire way through. And that's something to keep in mind. And the assumption is when things hold better than the rest of the market is they become leaders. I think this is probably one of those cases where Apple's probably not the leader, but the what's it called?
You know who
The
did
big
break
brother.
it?
Yeah,
Which
Amazon
one?
and Tesla are the two main
Yeah.
two. Amazon, Tesla, and Google was like mainly what I was watching, and then NVIDIA and AMD.
Yeah.
Can we talk about NVIDIA for just a second? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Dude. Yeah. That
Rager after rager candle.
I literally bought 0 delta calls and 1 day delta calls on Thursday, right? Like maybe an hour before close, based on what I was saying. And like it was bananas. Like I don't even know how to describe that move, because it was like jumpy, right? Like it was like some massive short covering.
And that's what
on.
NVIDIA is a name you guys know I bought during this downtrend. I think I bought it toward the end of January. So it's been dead money for a little more 6 weeks, but that was one hell of a nice move.
Yes. AMD though did not break its downtrend.
It did not.
Right. So
you think
one
it's going
to
to
watch.
follow?
I think it's a laggard in this case.
Well,
sorry,
go
ahead.
If we look at the
I
semis in general,
I think we might
the semis
get
look
the squeeze
poised
on this thing. On the weekly, you've got basically the double bottom at 100. The 50 days already been really trending down. That's why I was thinking, like, we get a strong week, like some of these names could look even better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, AMD gets a nice pop above like one.
Well, GP, I think we were talking about AMD briefly when we did our private live with a few people, right?
Yeah.
Like AMD seems to always suck on an options expiration week, right? Like
always, like nearly always, yeah.
So
always.
That in and of itself could be room for it to have a nice run this coming week potentially.
Sure.
As
I'm in
latter.
calls. I'm in that same belief. So I don't normally look at AMD because 75 out of 100 days it chops in between this weird funky range that no one really has a pattern on, and then it just takes off, right? Like that's just typically what AMD does. It's like a 3 week pattern that it goes bananas and then makes you miserable for the next 3 months, and or like it's just recurring. So I was like looking Twitter, at it like Twitter, Twitter's, I don't even know Twitter anymore, but like it's on the weekly, it's a good play. I like the reversal candle off the kind of the area, and I think it ends up playing catch up this week to NVIDIA, right? So that's why I'm long some calls, but but it didn't break the downtrend, so it's just something to keep on radar, right? Like I think it goes, but there are a handful of names that didn't break downtrend, so it's just something to keep on your radar.
You still in your Roku position, GP?
I am.
That had a pretty nice week too.
Not nice enough, right? I wanted a square week. I wanted 45% from the low, but we only got 22% or something like that. Laggard.
Yeah, I'm going to say like you're over here complaining about 20%, 22% from the bottom.
Right, but rough life, like 100% from the top. So.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Square, block, wow, with some power, and we were talking about this just before we hopped on. What bears and bulls might want to see, etc. And GP's like, it's got to go, and you can go into this a little bit further. GP's was saying it's got to go, or we risk to the downside, and me and Nick were both saying like we want to see follow through too. And when we look at the follow through, especially in this thing, it's had 1 and 2 up days right, during this cycle. But it hasn't had 3 strong days like that in this cycle, and really 4 if you count Tuesday. So I see that as breaking the trend that it's in, it breaking the pattern that it had been, 2 days or 3 days up at most, and then it collapses down. Well, this has had 4 days up. So
do you see that inverse? You want to draw that inverse head and shoulders there? Right?
Yeah,
it's a little bit wonky. Yeah, it's a little wonky, but it's that inverse. Other way. Yep, there you go, right? So, and you have a break of the neckline here, and not only did it break, it smoked right through it, right? And what you're seeing
I've been
here
too used to doing this number. Yeah, bad face.
Yeah, muscle memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at that weekly. It engulfed, not like the typical Japanese candle engulfing is what I'm talking about here, but it essentially took out what 9-10 weeks of price action in one single week, right? It tells you the strength of what just happened on this stock specifically, but I think in the markets in general, right? Like this name was back to 2018 lows on inherently better fundamental numbers, and if you go back to the daily, you're looking at an inverse head and shoulder that it just broke out of.
Yep.
Right, and you don't want to see it fail here. And you see a series of higher highs too, right?
Yep.
February made a high, and then March beginning made a high, and then we made another high, and we made a double bottom at a lower high, right? Like it didn't come back even to, it just filled the gap from the earnings and then retested the gap and then boom, right? So you don't want it to see it fail here, because to me, if it fails here, this results in kind of a distribution pattern, right? And then distribution pattern then takes out the lows like inherently worse. So and I'm not in that camp.
Our good pal Randy, who's watching us, he asked, whatever happened to the capitulation that everyone was waiting for?
January 24th.
Yeah, and this comes into how I was trying to tee us up with we need to see follow through, and how follow through, if we don't get follow through, it might be a bad sign. But yeah, no, I think the capitulation, as far as the market goes, right, if we look at the Qs, that February 24th was a huge moment that we started down and just pushed through, and then the same thing on the SPY, right? But I still think that January 24th, that was people scared too. So I think the capitulation happened in stages, and I'm going to call it there and there. I think this right here was just the market trying to get its feet. To me, it seems like unless you get some movement happening, it's like Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble in their car, right? And they're trying to go, but they haven't picked up steam yet, and they're just treading, right? And I kind of feel like that's what happens until you finally get a move like we just experienced. So I think we need to see some follow through. I was saying before we started, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we had an inside week. But at the same time, GP has just a little bit different opinion on what that might be. And GP, feel free to hop in. I don't want to speak for you.
Yeah. So let me share my chart, right? Like to answer the capitulation conversation. All right. Where are you, buddy? Here you go. All right. So people always assume that when capitulation happens, it never makes another low, right? And that's not, capitulation to me is sentiment, it is volume, it is a bunch of stuff. Like that was straight liquidation, that January 24th low. We started off and it was just boom, straight liquidation all the way down. Margin calls lighten up and we went bananas, right? Like this is essentially people were not hedged, right? And getting stopped the hell out, right? So this to me was your capitulation. We've tried to break that capitulation a few times, but you had your capitulation here, and we've tried to break it a few times. This may not seem like a lot, but this was nearly 10 weeks since we broke this, since we made this low.
Oh, it seemed like a lot to me. It seemed like a long damn time.
Yeah, but it could not. Every attempt at breaking this basically capitulation low was met with buying, right? Like that's I guess that's why I've been talking about this level for a really long time, because that was the fear candle. That was the holy crap, this market's gonna die, right? Broke a long-term pivot, right? If you go back here, this area here was a really big pivot to break. You had months and months, almost where did we start this? We started this June, and nearly 6 months of kind of a sideways action. And so when it broke this, you had real fear, because people were like, oh crap, I need to get out.
Nick, I have to ask you, where were you in June of 2021? Were you having some
June of 2021?
Were you camping somewhere? Did you have some tasty treats with you? No, I'm getting us. I was just trying to take it back on Nick there for a second.
Oh, sure. Probably. I was in I think I was in God, I think I was in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I remember.
Having a good time.
Totally.
Sorry, GP. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm sharing. Am I sharing a chart?
Yeah, you're sharing the chart, and I'm trying to be funny and tell a story about Nick eating mushrooms or peyote or whatever.
It's all good. We're fluid here, just like mushrooms. We keep it kind of crazy, but so that to me was your capitulation, and we've tried a bunch of times, and you can see almost on every attempt after this, it's been on much lower volume, right? So like the bear, this is what I've been talking about for weeks. I'm like, when like in typical moments when we've broken, right? If you go back to here, right? This is 2020. When we break, right? Like you don't get this. You get this doesn't look crazy, but if you're looking at it on a bigger time frame, when we break, it's unrelentless. It goes down. You don't do this. And this is what you do when you're ready for the next leg higher.
Okay, so Randy chimed in. He said, "Is this short covering or versus short covering versus true trend change?" ?
Okay, so they're not independent of each other, is my opinion, right?
Agreed.
So short covering starts the movement. It's the longs who take over and complete the movement, right? So
follow through.
It's the follow through, right? So the shorts are covering because they're like, okay, well, the Fed came in and said we're going to raise rates 7 times for a total of 1.9% clarity. It might be 25 basis points one week, one meeting, and it might be 75 the next one, but the total we're looking for is a maximum rate of 1.9, right? So you have your cap. None of that bullard, I'm going to raise 100 points overnight, 100 basis points overnight. Crap. We have a cap, right? So you can say we're not going to have to raise rates forever and ever. And I think that's probably going to change as we get closer to the end of the year, which is part of my overall theory. But right now they're giving us clarity, and that's what the markets are reacting to. So that causes your short covering, and then you have your follow through, right? So the other chart I was putting together for this was, can you see this one? No.
I still see the cues.
Yeah. So let me share the actual. So I'm going to share this. So you see this?
Yep.
Right. So this is the chart I was putting together, right? So I don't know if you can see it clearly, or I'm going to zoom in a bit, right? No, that's too much. But you see, we clearly made an all-time high in November 2021. We kind of had this, right? This is what I'm talking about, right? When you make a double bottom and then you break the double bottom, it gets nasty, right? It's inherently worse. So we consistently made a series of lower highs, right? time, and then a series of lower lows. And then what happened last week is that you had two different trend changes, in my opinions, and that was really nice to see. I wasn't 100% sure it was going to happen, but it was really nice to see is that we made a nominal new low here and then reversed to the upside, right? Like, so they tried to break it. They tried to scare everyone into FOMC, and FOMC said, no, we're just kidding. And then we rallied hard, right? And to me, if this was a, as people are calling it now, a bear market rally, we would not have taken this out, in my opinion. And we took out this kind of low, prior high, and with kind of right? You see the volume picking up, it's accelerating. Volume has come in pretty hard on.
I don't use MACD, but that looks pretty sexy to me.
Yeah, right. And look at the RSI. The RSI, it just like it took this wedge.
Well, we pointed that out, right? We had positive divergence on RSI,
yeah,
already, and then we have a RSI breakout.
And then you have the yeah, exactly. So you have the RSI breakout here. You have the MACD that's confirmed the bullish movement. You have the volume on the green days pretty heavy compared to the red days, right? Like I know everyone hates volume besides me, but you're approaching the bull territory in RSI too. We close, we start pushing above 60, and this gets really kind of going. So, but there's a series of two different trend changes, in my opinion, that happened in 1 week, in 4 days, right? So it's just something to keep on watch. And I was talking to Bags and Nick, and if we reverse here, this reversal is not going to be good, in my opinion. I don't want to see a break of this. I don't want to see a break of the prior day lows, right? Like that to me, it can get inherently worse, and you can have then the bears win, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. I don't think we get there. I know the futures are red right now, so every bear is rejoicing. You know, this should be a gap and go situation in most people's eyes. But as long as we're kind of holding this area right here, right? So I don't know exactly what number it is, but this area right here, you're in like a supply zone. And if we continue to hold that area, I think you have much further upside ahead of us while everyone fights you know how the bulls were fighting the whole move down? You're going to have the bears fighting the whole move up, right? So that's my general kind of viewpoint. And if we fail, we take out this kind of low, this 318 with some moxie. Yeah, I think it gets pretty nasty.
Surprise, surprise, GP and I have similar views. But Nick, you were saying you want to see follow through.
I want to see follow through if this thing is gonna really pick up. Like I don't want to see us keep hanging around down here. Like I want to see us get like on the Qs. Like I want to see us accelerate through 360. Like 360 is kind of like the 360 to 370 zone is kind of what I'm watching. But I mean, I'm long. I'm not looking to add any more risk until this thing proves itself.
Sure.
Yeah, and once we get to, not once, but if we get to the 370 or potentially even the 382 level, you'll have and then we go sideways and maybe down. You'll have all the head and shoulders reappears, but the head and shoulders pattern is already broken. Is what they don't realize. So
you could have a rally up to like that 370 and roll back over, and as long as it holds above like what is it, like that 340, if we did pull like roll back over, as long as we have like 340, you'd have like a big old inverse head and shoulders looking.
Yeah, I personally don't want to see that, Nick. I'm in your camp.
Sure.
I need to see the follow through here to confirm the thesis that I kind of have. But it's not necessary to confirm it, because if it's a shallow pullback and it holds like the top part of the range,
it's fine.
Week, yeah,
it's fine.
That's okay. But if you see any kind of accelerated movement down, even if it wicks down there, I'd be I'd be super concerned, right? Like, yeah, it's just.
I'd like to
not
see
okay.
that 440 is kind of my line in the sand.
Okay, I have it around 337.
If
Sure.
you're watching
Yeah.
at home, basically, we don't want to see this area break for the bulls, or bear porn is going to be all over your screens. And then on the SPY, almost the same thing. You don't want to see, let's say, this area broken, or it's going to be bull porn again.
Yeah.
And I like how they just conveniently line up with the rising 9 and 21.
Totally.
And
Always.
I also like on this one over here, that's but roughly the same range. And I wasn't even meaning to do that.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It's just funny how. And then we can always talk about Amazon if anybody wants to talk about that one.
We do have one question
Okay.
from Ranveer. He says, if you guys have time, could you also briefly touch on XBI and discuss Duzio's theory of XBI leading the bull market? First, I would never in a million years speak for Duzio or what he means by
I will.
leading the bear market or anything that he claims. Love you, Duzio, all love, but I'm not going to speak for you. I think actually, Nick, you like to ride the huckleberries and slap the dingleberries. So how do you think?
Well, it's just my opinion that between the IWM, when the IWM is leading along with the XBI or the IBB, is when he's literally willing to pretty much just throw money at the wall. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing is, and you know, you see a lot of these guys come out with like their trading rules, you know, and they'll say like a bunch of these guys will say that they never hold through earnings, right? Like, you'll see that's like a major rule. You know, the same thing, think of like the biotech sector. Like, when the trend is up,
just about everything else is up too.
Yeah, and you can hold shit in the biotech. When the trend turns is when you don't want to be holding any of this biotech shit. Like, I mean, dude, they're going back to like a couple bucks. Like, I remember anyways, not to get off track, that's just my opinion. I think he likes it when the XBI and the IWM are leading because it's small cap stocks that are going to just absolutely go on a tear. They're thin and they're going to fly.
Zach thought he's speaking funny. He said, it's because my theory on crypto being a risk on indicator is how Duzio feels about the drug names. I would take it one step further, Zach. I'd take it one step further. It's like when, the Russell, the small caps are rallying hard.
That's
right? So when those stocks and when the biotechs are running, everything is running. So I don't necessarily think that crypto is the same. I do think they're both risk on indicators, but I still think that, it's a signal. You're right. It's a signal. Sorry, Zach. I was going to go at you a little harder, but I didn't. You've got chill daddy bags tonight.
So can we ask Zach about his 3 peaks?
Yeah, no, damn it, GP. I wanted to bring that up when you were talking on SPY, and the MACD totally got me all in a different place. I was like, wow, I don't look at MACD often, but that looks great. Yeah, Zach, what about your 3 peaks that you drew up there, pal?
He's going to say it's someone else's chart.
Yeah, he always says it's someone else's chart. For anybody who's listening and not in the know, Zach was trying to espouse that we had a 3 peaks and we were going so much lower. I'll show you the
No,
three.
he didn't say so much lower. He said 3.
No, he did. He said we were going to 0 even.
Yeah.
1, 2, and then we were going to have another one. I guess it would have been this one. So we would have had 3 valleys. Right, Zach? Right, Zach? Where's it at? Where's it at, Zach? He didn't know he was going to come on here.
Maybe this is just peak 2, you know.
Or
right?
peak 5. It could be peak 5.
This is a multi-year downtrend. Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. 390s isn't that bad, he says.
He said 3 peaks is dead. Apple fulfilled.
Airbnb to 1,000. Don't you bring up my SoFi, Zach. Don't do it.
Yeah. Airbnb was really nice, Zach. So appreciate that. That's, it's
gonna be a monster.
Yeah, it's gonna be a monster. It was, you know what? It never broke IPO lows. Every other IPO stock has gotten decimated. Look at the Roblox, look at Matterport, look at oh my god, I can go through the entire list of IPOs and all decimated, right? Like, but Airbnb was, even Snowflake, the Warren Buffett of growth stocks, broke IPO lows, right? Palantir dead, Lightspeed dead, Frog dead. Like across the board, the last couple of IPO, and Airbnb did not break its lows. So it's showing you that there's definitely some strength compared to
this is going to be slam on Zach moment some more here. He's over here saying this type of stuff. I'm gonna put him on blast. Get Rich Slow, who I love. He has this playing out this way. And Zach says, this is the route I lean towards as well. Strong rally, but all-time highs,
Yeah, I saw that.
No, Zach just jumped on this while we've been live here.
Yeah, I just saw it. I saw it as well.
So, hey, Zach, I know you still want your 3 peaks to work out, but come on, bro.
If we turn down here.
Yeah, this was something that I wanted to bring up too. Anaplan, getting a private equity buyout. That's not something that you tend to see, right, in a big bear market in the world, zero play type of thing happening, right? Like that wouldn't happen necessarily. Or am I off base here?
No, you don't see. I don't know. You don't see the stuff in a recession, right? So the general theme right now is that everyone thinks that a recession is going to hit, but my general viewpoint is the demand is through the charts, right? Like, you make it, it will be bought. You could literally make a car right now with no windshield or side view mirrors or a radio, and someone will buy it, right? Because the demand is absolutely through the roof, right? Like, they're literally selling you ones without radio, saying, hey, when we get it back in stock, we'll have you to install the radio, but you can buy it for us now. And by the way, the markup on this is 15% without the radio, right? So, and that's not just cars, it's houses. I'm listening to my friends who are trying to find houses over the last year and a half, 20, 30, 40 cars waiting on most of these open houses. And maybe I'm living in my little New Jersey bubble here, and everyone's got a lot of money and it's just a different story. But I'm in the general camp that there's a lot of money floating around, and there's a ton of demand because people have been essentially quarantined for 2 years, right?
Yep. So while Mrs. Baggs and I we have a happy home and we are in the home that we love, We have 2 new kids, right? We have a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old, basically, and we're running out of space for all the shit that we have. So we've been looking at the market for probably 6 or 8 months now, and inventory is not what it was a year ago or even 9 months ago. It's pretty crazy out there right now. So it's for the housing market, while sales may have sold, I think it's because, I think we mentioned this on one of the other lives that we did. People just don't have places to move into if they wanted to right now.
Yeah.
So I think that is also a signal of strength.
Yeah, I understand gas prices spiked for all of 3 weeks, and everyone's going bananas over all that stuff. And $75 to fill up a gas tank, it's short-term pain. But I think that's what it's signaling is people are still filling up gas. They're just complaining about it, right?
Who's the most? Sorry to cut you off. Who's the most of the guys that you, or guys or gals that you follow, respect, whatnot? Is there anybody that is still uber bearish?
Well, I
mean, almost everyone I follow thinks this is a bear market rally.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, I just in terms of Rich Flow's chart, who I love and I respect the hell out of his TA. He thinks we're coming to a high to just get crushed basically. So that would tend to be a bear market rally, would it not?
Yeah. And I saved some stuff because I like to save Twitter snapshots of Dash for Trash feels big bounce for money losing growth stocks, right? The stock market just had its biggest gain since 2020. Enjoy it while it lasts. Those are 2 headlines that I screenshotted just yesterday. So yeah, I'm not saying that it's still super bearish out there. No one thinks it. There's a guy I follow. He's still looking for he's not 100% sure. He thinks this is bullish, but he's still not 100% sure because we haven't seen the 90% I think devol days or uvol days. I can't remember what he said, but I don't go into that kind of craziness. I'm just watching price action here, and price action for 10 weeks have told us that we can't break down with any kind of strength, and we've pushed up now. So now we got to see if there's going to be further push up or that's the end of the move.
All right. So Zach, we may as well have just invited Zach on. He's become part of the show tonight. Says it's a blow off top in housing. Careful out there, fam. Zach, type in what you mean there in the chat if you don't mind, because I would think a blow off top was the way things were acting this summer in the housing market, this past summer in the housing market. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, Ranveer wants us to look at the VIX. Nick or GP, either one of you guys want to share the VIX, or I can.
So what you guys can share the VIX. The blow off top, right? I think housing prices just took out a 13-year consolidation base, right? Since 2008, housing prices across most towns had not come back to their 2008 prices, and they just came back, I think, in 2020 or 2021. So I don't know. I'm a fan of charts in general. So when things break out of multi-decade or decade and a half bases, they tend not to be blow off tops, but the next leg higher.
What's the housing ETF? The home build, or is it just home builders?
I think there's just the home builders.
XHB is home
but there's
builders.
a difference between home building and home inventory, right? What I'm saying is I don't think the inventory is that high in pre-existing homes and new homes.
No, it's not. It's like some of the lowest that I've seen on record.
I think that's why prices are high. Is like I was using the example of me and Mrs. Bags looking like we're not in a hurry to find someplace. But even if we wanted to, we're not going to get a home. I mean, we're selling a home that's more valuable than the home we would end up buying.
Yeah. And you're going to have to give a lot of concessions on any new home you gotta buy now. Like
XHB
older or
is Sean
yeah.
T. XHB is the home builders ETF.
I mean, it doesn't look great.
Looks like it's pacing.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
mean, it's at the.
It's taken out that pivot from January 28th. It looks like it's basing. You can see the volume picking up to the upside and less on the downside. So we'll see.
All right.
Its seasonality comes into play.
We're going to move on to the VIX. So if you listen to our wrap that we had with Cookie this past week, what was that, Tuesday? He was looking at the VIX. He's been looking at the VIX. He studies the VIX. He charts the VIX. He pays way more attention to the VIX than I ever will.
Yep, same.
Looking at the weekly, I mean, pretty much spot on where he thought it would go. I got to pull up I think it's the VXX, right? Maybe. No. VIX futures. I know I put the VX. Yeah, no, I put his wedge up there somewhere. So there we go. That's basically what Cookie was kind of looking at from a standpoint of the VIX. And boy, did it fail. Now it still needs to fall down below the 21, but it looks like it's rolling over. To me.
It tried to kind of reclaim into FOMC, trying to reclaim that wedge, and then it just got rejected.
Yep. So Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, right? This was the start of FOMC. This was the press conference, and then rolled on over. So I think eventually, I think eventually
below all the 50 days too.
Yeah,
sorry,
it's going to blow through the 120 EMA and the 200. So I see the VIX collapsing down here eventually to this range. That's what I would look for. And especially if we're going to rally, like we kind of think so. So given with any follow through and any positive movement, I think we can expect that. What about a lot of misinfo on Twitter about VIX going to be higher in general in 2022 and 2023? That's a great question, Ranveer. I don't really know because I mean, if we looked at 2019, right, 2020 had a higher VIX, 2021 has a higher VIX, and 2022 has a higher VIX. So, I mean, I don't think a higher VIX necessarily means that the market's, falling, because the VIX is volatility in the end, right? And GP, I know, has gone into what the options part of this means, but I don't necessarily think having a higher VIX year over year means a lower market year over year. Am I off base on that?
Its volatility is increasing because uncertainty is increasing, right? Right now we're in a fairly uncertain market, so it's bound to happen, and then you'll get a peak and all that other stuff. So we're gonna see a generally higher VIX. We're not going back to VIX 10, 7, whatever. Remember, what was that, 2009 or whatever? I mean 19, was it?
Well, I mean, even in late 2019, we were down below 13, right? We were in 12s for a while.
We're not going to see that for a while, right? Like there's a lot of, in general, headline risks across the board, right? The wars, World War III, inflation, Fed. So volatility is going to remain high. And what that means is that, for me, it's just going to mean that you do have to take profits faster and sooner than you would in a low volatility environment.
I think I'm going to create a soundboard, and I'm going to have, every time you talk about you got to take profits, I'm going to play "Don't Love Them Hoes."
It's, yeah, you just got to know when, right? And it's not always easy to know when. I think while the volatility remains elevated on year-over-year basis, you have to be quicker to take your profits on trades. From an investing perspective, stay with the trends, right? Like if it's above the 921, all that stuff, just stay with the trends. And when those trends break, be able to get out. A lot of people can't get out when the trends break because they think it's going, because of how the bull market has essentially cemented that every dip is a buy. That if they sell these, they're going to be crying about how much higher it is a year or two from now.
Randy brought up earlier while we were talking about the bull and bear market, no semiconductors, right? Semis are a problem that we need to fix because everything in our modern lives has semiconductors in it. But at the same time, in my opinion, this has been my opinion for 15 months now, that semiconductors demand is higher than ever. And that's a great thing for the businesses, the way I see it. So I'm long semis. They had a huge week, not quite as much as the Qs did, but still a big engulfing there, right? So I think semis, when semis are leading the way, tech follows ultimately. And I hope that plays out. I know you weren't asking for chart analysis there, Randy, but I love talking about the semi complex.
I think what you have to keep in mind is when you start to see semi weakness, that's like, I don't think it's there right now. When you inherently start seeing the semiconductor sector start becoming weak, it's probably 6 months to 8 months from peak growth, right? Or whatever you want to call it, that their growth cycle is going to start to decelerate. It's just something to keep in mind.
Randy said he's in global foundries, and yeah, I think you can play that. I think foundries are going to be fine. For me, it's hard to go away from TSM, but global foundries, they should be good. I hope you bought some of that bottom that we had in this area in January and February. Ranveer, one last question about the general thought opinion post 2020 Fed QE versus now QT, and how we can expect a lot more sideways. I don't think that's necessarily the case, right, GP? We kind of talked about how the cycles, while there might be an initial and immediate impact to prices, it's not necessarily, everything's sideways or chopping until we finally get some QE or some more Fed buying. That's not the case, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't look at it as binary as quantitative easing and quantitative tightening. I think you have to take a look at the tea leaves a bit more when it comes to this stuff. Is like, I know they're kind of painted into a corner, as people would say, in terms of inflation being high, and demand growth being through the roof across the board, right? Semiconductors is one, phone, cars, and all that stuff. So like the quantitative easing in a strong, tightening in a strong economy, that people don't think it's going to be a strong economy. People think it's going to be a recession and all that stuff. So that's why there's fear, right? But if you have quantitative tightening into a strength of economy, I don't think I think they negate each other, right? I don't think they matter as much. And on like from a rates perspective, the Fed has had how many months of opportunities to come out and say we are going to hike the hell out of all rates for till kingdom come, and at every possible point they're like, yeah, we're just going to do a 25 basis point move here. Like, I don't know, man. To me, someone who's that hawkish wouldn't be like, let's do 25 basis points and let's see and wait. And they still did not give us an idea of when they start to do quantitative tightening either. So they're obviously seeing stuff differently than what everyone's talking about.
Hey, Nick,
Yes,
did you
sir.
post that QQQ chart so you could share it on the live?
I did. I just threw it up as a I don't know, just a possibility, an if then.
Well,
So
show
while you're
us.
sharing your screen, Nick, that Anaplan buyout is not for a lot, man. What is that, 30% over Friday's closing price?
Yep. Yep.
That seems kind of stinky.
So I'll share my chart.
And hey, Vince, thanks for joining. Yeah, you know, I love NVIDIA too. One of my top holdings over here. Not as big as AMD, but still pretty big.
Is that Vol? Vol
Yeah.
888? Nice. Welcome, Vince.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Vol.
I was just kind of putzing with it while we were talking, and like the
He
level, the
convinced
main level.
himself into bearishness.
No, I'm not. And again, even so, I was trying to think about MBG talking because he really thinks we're gonna leg lower. I was trying to figure out what I thought that might look like. And so I just basically connected, these lows here. And again, like I believe the market's kind of moved symmetrically. So I just copied and pasted that line here from this point down. And, if we rallied up to here, that would also put us in about that 50% retracement from this low to that high. And this is the area this is what I'm waiting to see. Like, I want to see if this gets taken out and we push back towards highs, or if this is kind of where we roll over. And I think if we do roll over here, I'm not saying that we will head down here, but it'd be likely that we either, well, I guess there's only three options from here. Like we either put in a higher low, we test the lows, or we take out the lows, right? So, I mean, even so, let's say we come back towards this, we would have 5 waves. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then that would be the bounce out of here. If that's the way that it plays out. How these patterns typically move, the measured move when this pattern breaks is back where the pattern originated, which would be kind of this point. So if this ends up, if this is what ends up happening, or how it sort of plays out, I would be looking to get long. I'd be buying this down here. I wouldn't be like selling, and then I'd be adding into here and then kind of waiting to see what happens when we test highs. If we want to hang out up here, or we want to accelerate out.
Hey, Nick, I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
What was the closing lows on January UpX Q candle?
January.
I think it's January 21st.
Oh, right here. Oh, wait.
No, this year.
Oh, January 2022.
Yeah.
What was the
closer low of that candle?
Looks like
looking at your chart.
Close was like 351 and the low was like 333. You're talking about right here, right?
No, the one before that, the January UpX candle. That's the one where it broke the January UpX candle.
Oh, sure,
right?
sure.
That was the
so that low was like, about 350.
Right. So that's because I'm looking at your chart there and I'm like, look at what we took out, right? In that one week, we closed back above the January UpX low.
Yeah.
That's once again, it's monstrous to me. So if we don't get follow through here, it's the highest closing price that we've had since January 24th. So if we don't get follow through to the upside in this week, I probably get inherently bearish from here.
If you're looking at this as a double bottom pattern, your measured move, like short term, like we should be ripping to 386, 87 pretty quickly.
Yeah, but you're going to get stopped at the 382 level because that's the left shoulder. So everyone can then talk about a head and shoulders pattern playing out, even though it's broken, right? They'll just put in 2 peaks and a head and all that stuff and be like, oh, look, it's a head and shoulders pattern. Right. But you can't come back up to 382 here after you've already broken the neckline and then call it head and shoulders.
It's for sure. The head and shoulders was here and like is what you were looking at here because this was the neckline that you were.
Yep.
You know,
we just reclaimed the neckline too, right? Like there's so many bullish convergences.
I agree with you.
Confluences in this moment that I personally think this week becomes a
big follow through,
monstrous move. Yeah, I think it's a big follow through personally.
I mean, I agree with you because like this bar right here is showing us that we rejected these lows. Well, these lows just kept getting rejected. Same thing.
You had to channel my energy P and be like, look at the volume. Just look at the volume, Bags. Look at the volume.
I'm telling you, you're going to convert one of these days.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. Yeah.
If that's a weekly, right? Look at the volume is like, I know no one likes it except for me because it's me, but that weekly volume is pretty telling to what we're seeing playing out. And what we reclaimed last week, like if we hadn't had that move on Friday, I wouldn't be as bullish right now because we claimed, like we changed 2 different downtrends. We closed back above the January UpX lows. We reclaimed that pivot neckline breakdown. Look, there's so much here that if we don't follow through, the next follow through is much lower.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting point. Like it feels like every time they spike the lows, it's like I kind of agree with you. It's like, God, if we do roll over, I think that it could be fucking nasty.
Yep. Vince, at least that's 100 EMA on there, on that chart that you've got there.
What?
That's a good eye there, Vince.
You want me to pull something up?
Yeah,
the 100 EMA.
The 100 EMA up on 1 week QQQ.
Oh, that's not the EMA. Bags, I'll show you your chart. I don't get
okay.
I don't pay for it. So
I am happy to do that. We're gonna look at what I'm gonna talk about next. Y'all know it's coming.
The butt coin?
The butt coin.
Take a look at what Ethereum Classic did in the last 2 days. Jesus.
All right, I'm just going to rename the 120 the 100 just for simplicity, so I don't have to add another EMA.
What is the ticker for that, GP?
ETC.
Oh, ETC.
There's your 100 weekly. That purple line.
Yeah. There's just a ton of confluences here that says that we should go higher, and if we don't go higher, then you should be concerned about going much lower.
Yeah.
We got about 5 or 10 minutes left, guys, and before I jump into the good old BTC, we skimmed over this move earlier.
No, we didn't. We talked about it on Thursday. Or Wednesday, was it? When
we did in the little private chat, right? But we didn't share it for the masses. And how we had four beautiful, lovely green ragers there.
Yeah, and still couldn't take out the pivot. So this is the one that concerns me a little bit, right? Solid move, great move, weekly awesome, but I really wanted to see
You want
the
3,300, do or die.
I wanted it to break that pivot, right? To me, that's a big pivot. It's been rejected there many times. It's failed there many times. So that pivot would have been a good reclaim by Friday.
32.75, but 33 with some gusto, right?
You had like a 500-point move in 4 days. So like I can't ask for much more.
Yeah. I added a little bit through the 31.65. That was actually the line I was looking at versus the line of that pivot high. Just, I don't know why. It's just what I had on my.
It's what works for you, buddy.
Like on my trade start
and
chart.
Here's why I say 30.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Right, because we need to reclaim the 200 SMA, in my opinion, and that's at 33.30. So I want to see plus 3,300 with some serious oomph.
Yeah. Can we just get that 4,000 level over with this week and just call it a day?
That'd be
right?
great too. I mean,
like just
I'm
put everyone out of their misery.
I'm tired of being on the bus to Chicago. I'm ready to go to Hawaii.
Yeah. Dude, that was such a I was trying to get long this do like short-term weekly options on Amazon all week, but I checked, I think it was Thursday or Wednesday, and 250 or 300 points, which is a 10% move in 2 days for Amazon. They were $3. I was like, I'm not paying. They were so ridiculously expensive. So someone kind of saw it or knew that it was coming, and they just wouldn't let up on the premiums. Does
the RSI breakout look familiar to another chart we were looking at earlier? I think the one that GP shared on the Qs, maybe.
Square, yeah. Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. You have a lot of those though, right? When you have 40% moves.
Are you going to be excited to play Amazon options more often after the split? I know I am.
Nope. I'm going to take that off my list, and I'm going to let it consolidate for another 16 years. No, not 16, but after the split, I'm going to not trade it as much.
So before I pull up the Bitcoin chart, we've talked about the splits in Amazon and Google and how we think Google's just going to be a slop fest until after it splits. Do we think Amazon's going to be that? I mean, if we look at the chart, Amazon looks like it's ready to go, right? It's already broke the downtrend, hasn't taken out the pivot, but it's broken the downtrend. Google, on the other hand, is in a complete another class of fuckery. Pardon my French. Right? Like this doesn't look good on a lot of different levels. I mean, yeah, on the weekly, I can show you some positive divergence here, but it is a long way away from that breaking that downtrend.
Yep. And I think we've talked about this on either the live calls midweek or the Sunday calls. You gave Google, which had a 2,000-point move from the bottom, which is 200%, right?
Yep.
And then you announce a split. They are going to milk it for the next 4 months or 5 months until we get closer to the split, right? That's just my personal opinion.
I just don't see how they can't.
Yeah, well, that's exactly my point. And I think I tried one trade just to see if it could break out, and it failed immediately. So I'm like, I'm done, right? That was I took it off my list. I don't even see it. I don't want it to be. I don't want to be tempted to take this out because I just think there's going to be a lot of premium collection in this. On the other hand,
any take on that?
So what?
Any take on the Google slot fest until after the split?
I mean, I like both Google and Amazon here.
Would you add Google long right here?
Through 37. Yeah,
like we're sitting basically at the 21 weekly right now, but we still got that downtrend. So you would take Google long right here?
Yeah. I mean, you're chasing it a little bit. you got to risk at least 2,600. So you're risking 100 points.
Yeah.
You're better off. Well, again, if GP's plan follows through, Google's going to go too. If these things go, they're going to push back towards the high end of their range. If that's the direct, if that's the direction we go. I'm kind of ignoring on my weekly chart. I'm kind of ignoring that huge that gap up to like 3,000, like the like that gap high. Yeah, I'm kind of ignoring it. Yeah, I have the exact same kind of trend line you have drawn there.
Is that the 200 EMEA?
It's the SMA. I could give you a 200. Do you want it on the daily or the week?
Daily, take a look at the 200 EMEA only, nothing else. Sorry, Nick, to cut you off.
There you go.
It's just what?
There you
Pull
go.
up Google, GOOGL.
Oh, you want the
The
Class
trader.
A shares with his pinky finger out as he sips his tea.
Are you sure that's the 200 EMEA? Because I have something different.
Yes, I just put it in 200.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, I have the 120. I have something different. Never mind. Ignore my thoughts. Continue.
Yeah, it's marked as the 120, but I put in 200. This would be the 120. Is that what you want to look at?
Yeah. So like Amazon took out the 120 and Google did not. That's what I was looking at.
It's $3 above the 120. But
Yeah.
whatever. Anyway,
I think the 20-day.
You would not go long Google here, but you would go long Amazon here.
I think Amazon has a ton of runway.
But you wouldn't touch Google. You'd sink all that money.
Not for trades, right? So if I'm investing, I'm putting money into both. But I'm talking about my trade, right?
No. I'm talking about if I gave you X amount of money and said you have to use this in either A, buying Google or B, buying Amazon. This is not financial advice. What do you do with that money that I give you?
I'm buying Snap. No, I'm joking. I would buy.
I could have reached through this computer and slapped you right then. I probably would have.
No, I hands down I'm buying Amazon here. That's just my opinion. You have.
I don't disagree.
In June, it'll be 2 years since it hit a peak, right? And then it's tried to break that peak like a bunch of times, but it keeps getting rejected. So if anything's going to get this moving through this 2-year base, it would be a split, their buyback of $10 billion. Not that it's a lot, but there's a lot of things here that to me, I'd put my money in Amazon over Google. That's
And I kind of agree with Nick. I think that, you've got 100 points that it can give away, like it can pull back from. But it still has more than 100 before it has to break. Well, I think it was like 80 before it breaks the downtrend. So it's basically in no man's land right now. And it could easily do this shit, right? Like it could easily do that for who knows how long. Anyway.
Yeah. I think your 10 and your 20-day moving average is really your guide. At least for me, I think the 10 and 20 day is kind of more or less going to be my guide. As long as those hold, I'll be fine. I'll hold. If not, I'm not going to sit through the. I'm not going to sit through the.
And technically, this base in Google is actually stronger than Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Google didn't make a new low. Amazon did.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I say they're both going to 5,000. Well, I suppose when are they splitting?
June 6th and July 20 something.
All right. So the Bitcoin, I've been watching it. I've brought it up every week. I want to bring it up every week. I don't know if you guys notice here, but this is the first close, a weekly close above the 9 EMA. We're still not above that 21, and I'm going to mark that, get that 50 off of there. So To me, I'm leaning pretty bullish here. I'm not full bull until we see it above this 43,456. But it's definitely very constructive. I like where it's at currently on the weekly. We still got the 21 pushing down just a little bit, but closing above that 9 and the 9 starting to curl up. I think those are positive things. And if it's risk on, baby, it's risk on. So I would almost watch for this week for us to get maybe a candle with a wick up, sort of like this one, not as big as this one, but probably maybe I don't know, was that a 7-8% move from here? Yeah, something like that. I could see that happening. And if Bitcoin is able to close above that weekly 21, oh, it's game on, young men.
When you're done looking at this, take a look at what Ethereum Classic has done in the last
and just look at that basing and the positive RSI divergence here on the daily. On the daily, it's above all the EMAs. The 9 is getting ready to cross the 50. It might take a few more days for the 21 to sort of get up there, but we're on our way. We're on our way. I think this is the most probably, I'm not going to say excited, but the most positive feeling that I've had about Bitcoin in a while. So for my dot position, almost a very similar looking chart, looking for it to either come back in and test this uptrend line here, or a breakout of like 19 and a quarter. So there you go. There's the bags play. And you want to see Ethereum Classic.
I was just saying, look at the last couple of days.
Yeah.
That was a monster move.
Yeah, it's a pretty good move. So from, what is that, Friday's wick to Saturday's high. Actually, that would be Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
40-some%. Yeah, it's a strong move. Ethereum has done pretty well, not just Classic, but Ethereum has done pretty well too. It didn't do that move, obviously, but it's moved pretty well. I was looking at Ethereum versus Bitcoin, as I tend to do, and it looks like it's got some legs. So
it does, which is, to me, this just, as you've talked about bags many times over, is that it signifies risk on, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
if these guys continue to get that risk on spiciness, then it bodes well for the entire market.
Randy says baby needs a new pair of shoes. Well, my baby's got all kinds of shoes because I'm like a shoeaholic over here. So my kids got all kinds of shoes. But yeah, maybe I got a pedicure with my mama yesterday. I was feeling so good. Maybe I'll buy the boys some shoes too. Who knows? Hey guys, we did it again. We made it through another one. Actually, we got one last request. Rahesh, who is a new person. I don't think I've seen you in our chat before, but I will show you Tesla and we can talk about Tesla for 2 minutes. 2 minutes on the clock. Nick, GP, go.
I liked it. I bought the trend line break. So like 850. You can't really you can't really do much with it here. I don't think pushing into the 50-day. You got to kind of chill for a second.
It's the first kind of close above the 120 EMA. We've talked about bags many times over. It was a point that it rejected many times. It took out the all-time high from 2021 January, which was 900. Also the level where it had that stupid squeeze higher for 35%, where I wanted to kind of base. It's established that kind of handle above the cup look. There's a lot of great things to add. I mean, to say about this chart. It looks good. It can still be range bound for a while, right? So just keep that in mind. Tesla's had a massive move already, so their vehicles are in high demand. All that stuff is great, no doubt about that. But it's just something that it can continue to oscillate between the lows and highs of this area for
This
quite
is
some
not
time
financial advice, and I am long.
And at the same time, I bought in the low 700s. So
this is not financial advice, and I am long Tesla. If I were going to have bought, it would have been off of this 50 right here. So either the trend line or around 825 or so. What did you say you bought, Nick? 850?
Yep.
So right around that range. I wouldn't be chasing it here just because I see it almost like that Google chart we looked at just a minute ago.
Yeah.
There's more downside. I mean, you could still get down to around 815, 820 if it decided to pull in some. And then you've got 957 to go before it breaks out. So I think at this point, if I were looking to add, I would wait for it to confirm the breakout before I would just pull the trigger on it right here if it were me. All right, guys, we did it again. We've been killing these, you know. Thanks, Vince. Appreciate the kind words. Thanks for joining and hopping on. We really like doing this. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I really like doing this. GP and Nick have been great to learn from and talk with. So Randy, thanks for the compliment. Thanks for tuning in. I think you've been on like the last 4 or 5 of these things. So I appreciate you. But guys, my dos amigos, Nick, GP, can't thank you guys enough for giving me about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 30 minutes each Sunday. So love you guys. Thank you.
Love it.
Right back at you, man. This has been great. So appreciate you hosting and doing all this stuff as well.